Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Mick. So the next session, we're just going to bring some chairs up in a second, so I think the guys are going to do that. We're going to have our first full in real life panel session here from Marvel Stadium. We have the session with Carly Riley from Overpriced JPEGs and Betty, the founder of Deadfellas, and Will, the founder of The Littles, currently going on stream 2 right now. So if you're enjoying that stream, I'm looking forward to that recording personally. So next up we have sports and NFTs, and what a fitting place to talk about sports and NFTs with the backdrop here of Marvel Stadium, leading into round 2 of the AFL season. So I'm going to be moderating this session. We're going to have Ridley Plummer from Tennis Australia, who was essentially the brains behind the AO Art Ball project a couple of months ago that Tennis Australia launched around the Australian Open. The Commissioner of the NBL, Jeremy Loeliger, and Joan, Senior Commercial Manager for Cricket Australia, that's leading cricket's NFT strategy, Joan Norton. So looking forward to hearing from those three momentarily, and that is the next session. So come on up. I can see Ridley and Jeremy in the back, and we've got those seats coming. All right, we're nice and cozy here up on stage. Welcome everybody. I know a few people have just sort of walked in the room in the last sort of couple of minutes, and what a better session to sort of kick things off for you if you have just walked into the room. For the next 25, 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about sports. So really looking forward to speaking with the guests here. Jeremy actually joined us. You've heard Rochelle and I reference NFT Fest, which is an event we ran all online in September last year. For an online event only, the energy was amazing, and Jeremy was instrumental in that particular day. So it's wonderful to sort of have Jeremy back, and then Ridley and Joan joining us as well. So please give them a round of applause, and we'll get started. So I think it's probably fair, given that everyone's got a story to tell up here, but Ridley in particular, what the Australian Open did a couple of months ago. I remember when I sort of saw it pop up on Twitter, and I didn't know it was coming, to be honest, and I thought, wow, this looks interesting, and I probably spent about 5 hours just digging into everything I could find and being in the Discord, and I just wanted to know everything about it. And the more I dug, the more I was impressed that this wasn't just a digital collectible, it had some utility to it, and it was going to blur the lines really of sort of digital and physical. So Ridley, tell us a little bit about the AO Art Ball project. I'm sure there's some holders in the room, but for those that are not aware and people watching on the virtual stream, just give us a high-level overview of that project.
Yeah, we didn't really know it was coming either. I think, as you said, it happened so quickly. I think we sort of rewind to the 1st of November, got a little tap on the shoulder from a couple of execs at Tennis Australia that said, we want to do an NFT play, a Metaverse play for the AO in 10 weeks' time. And my response was, you're trying to do 10 months worth of work in 10 weeks. We're being set up for failure here. So we just then ran as quickly as we could. We found a couple of great teams to work with, one in Run It Wild and Vegas City from Decentraland as well, and then basically pulled a couple of ideas together and just moved super quickly. I think having that team built around us was integral to bringing the project to life in such a short space of time. So basically what we did was ideate what an NFT for tennis could be. And I think one of the important things for us was not to go down the Top Shot route and just do a tennis pack drops with great forehands and great backhands of years gone by. So putting that aside, we said, well, why don't we create something with the balls or artwork or gamification? We had two ideas. One was the art ball. One was a data play, creating artwork using data. But we didn't feel that those two projects stood alone by themselves strong enough. So after a little bit more brainstorming, we pulled the two together and basically created an NFT that we could update in real time using data from on the court through our partner at Hawkeye and our line calling technology that we use now, because obviously there's no lines people anymore. So it's all data driven. What we then did was basically build the project, and within the space of 4 to 6 weeks launched online very quickly, and through our partners at Run It Wild and MetaKey and some of the other and NF teams, we were able to bring that together incredibly quickly and go to market with a bit of fanfare and do something that I guess had never been done before.
Yeah, thanks, Ridley. And we will loop back on the project in a second. And Ridley mentioned actually the MetaKey, Run It Wild, and NFTs. So you'll be hearing from all three of those projects or organisations throughout the day today. But let's throw it to you, Joan. Tell us, we've probably got a lot of cricket fans in here. We see a lot of cricket out here at Marvel Stadium. What should cricket fans expect over the coming, I don't know, weeks, months? Have you got any alpha for us?
Yeah, so I think while Ridley did the fast and quick, 2 sets and done, we're working on kind of a test match schedule. So so we're at the very pointy end of our process to find a partner to work on our NFT program. I think I counted from the first day that I mentioned it in a broadcast and commercial strategy session to the point at which we were getting ready to start working on the comms piece. It was 386 days, so we definitely took our time. We were really measured about how we went about it, and we worked in conjunction with our Players Association, which I think is pretty unusual for some of the team sports out there, and certainly not something we've seen in cricket in the NFT space yet. So that took a lot of time for us just to work through. But we are ready within the next few weeks to make an announcement of our partnership, and then the work that we're doing right now is setting up that product roadmap of what it will look like. I think there's the obvious play around what Top Shots has done in the collectibles, and certainly there's a lot of amazing cricket moments that we have over the years and will have for years to come. But we're also starting to look at what the utility around some of these NFTs are, and to me, that's the big play. I think the collectibles are great. I think it's wonderful. I think we heard just now from Dapper, like there's that area where you can get sales, and they want to spend money, and everyone loves to collect big art and big cars and hopefully some big cricket NFTs someday. But for me, it's more around how we use it as a fan engagement tool and how we really broaden it. I think when I think back to my experience with collectibles, I think back to growing up in New York and buying packs of baseball cards because I loved the Yankees and it came with a free piece of gum. And so I want to be able to reach those kind of high luxury levels, but also have the accessibility so any kid who loves cricket can get involved and collect pieces of the game that they love.
Amazing. Jeremy, from your perspective, you've obviously got really close ties with the NBA. We've seen sort of the NBA's, or the NBL's next Future Stars program with the likes of LaMelo Ball out. How are you sort of still looking at NFTs at the moment? How close are you to sort of NBL fans being able to get their hands on some NFTs, and what might that look like initially?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Firstly, I've got to applaud Ridley and the gang at the AO because I thought utilising live data in that way was pretty unique. It won't be unique going forward. I think you've set a trend and it's something that everyone will look to do in future. But I know that we sort of sit probably somewhere in between in terms of the time frame that we've given ourselves. We've been through a tender process recently. We're getting down also to the pointy end now. And you could expect us to be making some announcements in the next few weeks to a couple of months, I would suggest. And probably like most major sporting codes, we will dip our toe in the 3 main areas where sporting codes are playing: collectibles, fan tokenisation, beginning down the realm of utility tokens. But really the future lies in combining all of those 3 things and bringing them back to your core principles as a business of fan engagement. And you've got to be wary of not falling into the trap of trying to secure a bolt-on revenue stream that is probably not sustainable and has a short-term impact for your fan base, as opposed to actually using the technology to drive the metrics of your existing core business, improve what you already do, improve the experience for your fans, or take your business to a new group of fans by utilising this technology. I'm still a big believer that before there was a dot-com bubble, it was the dot-com boom. And then after the dot-com bubble came the dot-com boom, ironically, right? We're kind of there now in the NFT space. Everyone thinks this is the NFT boom. We're probably in a bit of an NFT bubble. And it will burst, and that will sort the wheat from the chaff. And the people who actually understand how to utilise blockchain technology to drive key drivers of their business, as opposed to just those quick bolt-on revenue streams, are the ones who are going to come out the other side and actually capitalise on the boom. Straight after the dot-com bubble came the genesis of some of what are now biggest companies in the world. I think we're still sort of somewhere in that time frame and don't yet know where.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point around sort of dipping your toe in the water, because we've got to remember the blockchain is forever. So if we go out and we do a quote-unquote cash grab, it's you're facing reputational risk, and we've seen sort of some athletes and celebrities out of the US over the last 12 to 18 months really butcher NFT drops that have looked very much like a cash grab and very much were a cash grab. So I think the phrase dipping the toe in the water at this moment in time in 2022 makes a lot of sense for sort of everybody sitting up here on the stage. So Ridley, tell us a little bit more about the AO Art Ball project. So, I have one, I bought one, and I owned a piece of the court. Like, tell us a little bit how that worked.
Yeah, so essentially, and there is a bit of a story behind the 6,776 balls that we minted. The reason that we got to that number was because we had to divide the court up equally and perfectly equally down to the millimetre of the millimetre, because tennis is such a... with the technology that we're using, we can drive down to the 0.0001 of a millimetre to see where the ball actually landed. So what we effectively did, we divided the court up into those 6,776 plots that then non-numerically tied to every NFT in the collection. Your art ball would be tied to a 19 by 19 centimetre piece of the court, and when a winning match point landed on that court, we would take the data from that match, so that would be the player, the round that it was in, and the championship that was in, and then update your art ball with a little holographic sticker that represented it as a winner, and also the data into the metadata of the NFT.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, as from a fan engagement perspective, I remember actually, I don't know if there's anyone from the NF Teams crew in here, but I went along with the guy that's helping out today, Heath Evans, on the first day, and Heath's not really a big tennis guy, but he was like a little kid running around to all the courts trying to catch the next match point so he could see whether his spot on the court was going to have the winning sort of match point so he could get the upgradable NFT. One more question for you. Do you know who has the NFT of the match-winning point of Ash Barty's historical win?
No, we don't. Okay. No. I think that's one of the unique things about Web3 as well, is the anonymity that comes with it. And we obviously have a Discord that we have access to, or to communicate to a lot of our new community members, which is been hugely successful and I guess a window into our marketing and communications. So we're doing a survey, and we're doing the claim feature in the coming weeks, which will give us an idea of who potentially owns those balls. Obviously, that could have been traded on the secondary multiple times by now as well. So yeah, we'll find out who owns that when they go to claim it.
You need one super rare token for out. That would be upgradable pretty quickly, I would have thought.
Joan, a couple of questions for you. This is probably going to be an anecdotal answer, or maybe you do have the data on it, but Jeremy touched on, we still are early, and there's probably only a small percentage of your collective fan bases that are into the NFT space at this stage. What type of conversations are you having internally at Cricket Australia around sort of projecting what the uptake might be, and do you have a ballpark figure of what percentage of your fan base might be engaged in sort of your initial Genesis drop?
Yeah, so I don't think we do have a good idea, I think is the honest answer. I think we kind of have, I guess it's a bit of a twofold. From the Australian landscape, we know that we're a little bit farther behind the rest of the world in uptake of cryptocurrencies and NFTs. And so I think it was kind of said earlier in one of the sessions that there's a huge education piece to be done around what NFTs are and the utility around NFTs and why people might want to get involved, especially our cricket fans. And so we'll certainly take the time between now and next season to do that education, to onboard our fans, to onboard the Australian public on what NFTs are. I mean, Ridley's gotten us off to a great start, and I'm sure Jeremy will be doing similar things. And so that's what we'll kind of do for a domestic approach. I think the other thing that we have is that cricket's such an international global sport, and so we know, I think our initial drop will probably have a significant uptake in other parts of the world. So we think the subcontinent is probably a bit farther along in their uptake on collectibles, especially if we can bake in some utility around some of the gaming that we have and fantasy and things like that. So I think that's what I'm expecting. I don't think we haven't put any numbers against it, but again, we'll want to get out there quickly with some product as soon as we're ready, but then use that time between now and next summer to really get that idea embedded across the Australian public and across our cricket fans, so that they understand what we're doing, but also so that we're able to build product and build utility that our fans are interested in using.
I think that's a warning shot to everyone in the room from Joan. If you're not an NFT collector in the Australian market, you should be. So please take away something today so you're ready for Joan's drop. But Jeremy, back to you. You mentioned utility. How do you think about that? Like maybe in 18, 24 months' time, what type of utility for an NBL NFT holder you think we might see? Is it sort of upgrades to seats? Is it exclusive functions? Like, how do you think about that?
You're asking me to give away the secret sauce.
I am.
I think the key lies in finding experiences that don't necessarily translate back to IRL. Like we're kind of migrating this whole concept to a digital world and then migrating it back again to the physical. It doesn't need to be that. And your cost of goods sold go through the roof the moment that you transfer it back to the digital world as well. So I don't know. The kind of utility that I've seen recently is giving people access to something, even if it's another token at a future point in time, that makes them feel included, that makes them feel closer to the community of which they are initially striving to be a part. They bought that NFT in the first place for a reason, and more often than not, it's to become part of a community. So you want to give them that opportunity to extend those networks into new communities. You saw, FKT and the CloneX, which was then, I think, acquired by Nike, and then they released so you had your CloneX avatar, and then all of a sudden you got an environment for that avatar to exist in and for you to display your other NFTs. And then Nike airdropped something that is only available to those people who have a CloneX avatar. That's that kind of feeling of the gift that keeps on giving.
You are getting all the DGens watching on the virtual stream very excited with sort of references to CloneX and everything here, Jeremy, so we appreciate that. Ridley, touching on Jeremy's point around sort of metaverse experiences or digital experiences, you guys dabbled in that. And when I say dabbled, that's probably underselling it. The replication or the clone of essentially Melbourne Park, but in a digital sphere, was exceptional. And I think you actually played archive footage from Australian Open in previous years, as well as sort of had some concerts. Can you talk to that a little?
Yeah, we didn't just dip the toe in, we jumped in the deep end without a life jacket on for that one. That was through Decentraland for anyone who didn't get an opportunity to jump in and have a play around in the AO or the virtual AO. It was really important for us to, as an objective, create the world's most accessible sports and entertainment event. It's hard enough to get to Melbourne in normal times, let alone in COVID times. So it was an opportunity for us to extend the AO beyond Melbourne and beyond Australia, so people could log in and get an experience from New York or Paris or wherever they happen to be and get a little taste of that sort of Melbourne summer entertainment and sport experience that the AO gives. So there was gamification, there was wearables, there was POAPs, and there was archive footage as well. So what we wanted to do was create an environment where people could come back in time and time again and see something new every time, or get a new wearable, or get a new POAP, or a new collectible, or see some new footage they hadn't seen before. So we gave those visitors a reason to come back 14 times over 14 days.
Back to you, Jeremy. Sort of Ridley's touching on sort of some airdrops and sort of digital merchandise, and when we think of sort of commercial revenue and for partners of the NBL, etc., is that something that you're sort of looking at as well to go, well, we're so used to going to in real life experiences when we sort of get a quote unquote show bag and a lot of our partner branded merchandise, pens and jackets and caps sort of in the bin or in a closet collecting dust. Do you think about sort of digital collectibles and also sort of wearables for the CloneX type metaverse avatars as sort of a future, I suppose, an additional commercial value that you can put into your sort of suite for commercial partners?
No, that's a terrible idea. Don't pursue that. I don't encourage that at all. No, that is very much along the lines of what we have in mind. We want to be an interface, a conduit for our partners to be able to access this technology and therefore a new fan base. It's one of the reasons we want to go into this, is because we consider ourselves a great facilitator of fan engagement with brands. That's, at the end of the day, our business is generating eyeballs and then having those eyeballs associate the sport with the brands who pay for it to come into existence. Similar to ways in which we'll probably dip our toes in esports. We've got big brands around Australia, and it's another industry that Australia has been slow on the uptake is esports. We've got big brands out there saying, we know how to work with you, we want to work with you more, we need access to this fan base and this technology, can you provide a solution for us? So I think exactly the same here in the NFT space and blockchain more generally. sport is a great way of taking technology to the masses. We're not necessarily the right people to be doing it, but we happen to have a huge fan base of people who are interested and brands who are interested, so we've got to be nimble.
I think it's a really important point. One more for you, Jeremy. LaMelo Ball's obviously gone on from playing for the Illawarra Hawks, now sort of doing massive things in the NBA. I could imagine the LaMelo Ball rookie card in an NBL pack would be quite desirable.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? And it's one of the things that sets us apart from the NBA. What you will have seen in Top Shot, right, as successful as it's been, I guarantee you none of you have a moment featuring Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson. Because dealing with the Players Association is one thing, dealing with the Retired Players Association is another, and then tracking down all of the other players who are in the background of that piece of footage from 20 years ago and getting their consent also, very difficult. Not so hard here. Not so hard here.
We've got a few lawyers in the room, Mike Bassina, Joni Pirovic, are probably sort of rubbing their hands together at that particular one, Jeremy. Joan, back to you. From an ESG perspective, and this is not a trick question because you might give away maybe what blockchain you're going to use, but we saw what Ridley did, and Ridley, maybe we'll get you to speak on that in a second around sort of carbon emissions and stuff, but are you thinking about some of the sort of backlash or the quote-unquote FUD that projects like Ridley experienced a couple of months ago, where people are throwing things like this is a scam, it's a fad, and it's bad for the environment, it's killing the environment, etc. How are you sort of approaching that internally at Cricket Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was definitely a big feature of our kind of EOI or RFP that we went to market with, is to understand what protocols the companies were using, what impact that has, was there any carbon offsetting happening, because obviously, we're concerned with environmental sustainability at cricket. The summers get hotter, it's harder to play, it's worse to be out there all day for kids and for anyone who's playing. And so yeah, it absolutely is. So yeah, not to give away who we're working with, but we are looking at protocols that have, lower impact, or as low impact as we possibly can. And certainly some of our players are really keen on the environmental sustainability, in general, but also the sustainability of blockchain. So it's been great to kind of get some of that input and steer on that.
Yeah. One more question. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left, so we might actually throw to the audience. If you've got a question for Jeremy, Ridley or Joan, get it ready. I'm going to throw one more to Ridley, and then we'll go to that just short Q&A. Ridley, I'm still a holder of the AO ball.
I thought this was coming.
Give me something. What should I expect? Have you got any alpha you can share about sort of projects coming up, any partnerships you're doing? Give me something.
So the last probably, and I think our project is now 9, maybe 10 weeks old. So it's been a pretty hectic couple of months since we kicked off with the AO. We've got conversations in play in the market right now with EPL teams, NBA teams, global brands, whether that be current partners, potential partners, non-partners as well. Our full intention with the AO Art Ball was to always make it a VIP pass to the Australian Open. So what we're doing right now is working out what the next 2 to 3 months looks like, how we potentially utilise those hotspots of tennis throughout the year that are coming up with obviously the French Open and Wimbledon and US Open. There'll be some big announcements coming in the next couple of weeks and months. And yes, there'll be tickets, there'll be experiences. The AO Art Ball will become a VIP pass to the Australian Open in the future.
I think the floor price is about 0.06 ETH at the moment, so it might be a good time to buy. Not financial advice, obviously. Have we got any questions? We've got about 3 minutes left. So anyone want to raise their hand? And I'll probably ask you, I don't know if we've got any mic runners. I've sort of sprung this on the AV people at last minute. So I'd get you to stand up and maybe project your voice. Yes, at the back. I can't see. But...
Hi, for the Australian Open Metaverse, there's been an initiative to work directly with artists, which was awesome. I had the privilege to be one of them. It also brought a lot of people together. Just wondering if you could speak a little bit about that, how further might evolve rather than working with agencies and establish sort of...
I've got your question. I'll summarise it for those who didn't hear. Ultimately, Ridley's team, sort of engaged, essentially went out to market and said, anyone that wants to submit their own artwork for the digital collectible of the AO Art Ball, we're putting an allocation of those to artists. So Ridley sort of talked to us, and I believe there was a small royalty built in for artists as well.
Correct. So we had 100 artist balls. I think we had about 300 or 400 submissions for those, which included people submitting their own NFTs that they had the rights to use, or their own artwork from graphic designers. We had 100 of those feature in the collection as part of the rarity in the collection. We are having conversations. I'm not sure if you're still there or ducked behind the pole there. We are having conversations with a number of partners in market right now to utilise some of that artistry and artwork that was created. So yeah, stay tuned for some updates on that coming forth.
Wonderful. Thanks for your question. Yes, please.
How do you make sure there's a fair distribution channel? So how do you want to contemplate the allowances or warnings for all your fans? Obviously, the demand is huge, but the supply is limited.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the question was, and this is not just a question for the three people up here on stage, but pretty much all NFT projects, is how do you get a fair distribution between allow lists and large fan bases, and demand ultimately outweighing supply. How do you think about that, Jeremy?
I think it's ironic that you asked the question while wearing a Bored Ape Yacht Club T-shirt, because it's a balancing act between democratisation and scarcity. Scarcity is what drives value, but democratisation is what drives fan engagement. So ultimately, it depends on what your end objective is. If you're looking to make money, and as I referred to earlier, short-term revenue streams, and then potentially upside on secondary transactions, you go for scarcity. If you're looking to drive fan engagement and democratisation, it's all about making the product accessible.
Wonderful. We've got 20 seconds, so we might wrap it up there. I want to thank Jeremy, Joan, and Ridley for joining us today. Obviously, big things are coming from these three sports. Ridley's already sort of got something away, but we thank you guys for joining us today. Please connect with them on LinkedIn or Twitter. And up next, we have Tom Bilyeu, who will be on the screen being interviewed by Theo, talking about Web3 IP development. So thanks again to the three on the stage.